In accordance with Open Public Meetings Act, PL 1975, Chapter 231, adequate notice of this regular meeting of the Planning Board of the Township of Franklin has been provided. Everyone would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilman Chase, Mr. Howe, Ms. Steinhauer,
Present.
Ms. MacIver,
Here.
Mr. Mettler,
Here.
Mr. Onyaka. Mr. Pettit is excused, he is ill. Up. Mr. Onyaka has arrived. Mr. Thomas,
Here.
Chairman Orsini.
Here. Okay, so first, I'll make a couple of administrative announcements. So, VGS Holdings carried to November 11th with no further notice required, at least in the paper. Franklin Juliet, that's carried to December 16th, also with no further notice required.
Councilman Chase has arrived.
All right, party can start. Resolutions. Kelly, PLN 08-00008, extension of time.
Move to approve.
Second.
Councilman Chase,
Yes.
Mr. Howe,
Yes.
Ms. MacIver,
Yes.
Mr. Mettler,
Yeah.
Mr. Onyaka,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Chairman Orsini.
Yes. Builders Pro LLC, PLN 14-00010, extension of time.
Move to approve.
Second.
Councilman Chase,
Yes.
Mr. Howe,
Yes.
MacIver,
Yes.
Mr. Mettler,
Yeah.
Mr. Onyaka,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Chairman Orsini.
Yes. Vouchers. Peter Vignolo, Clark and Vignolo, October retainer, $833.33.
Move to approve.
Second.
Councilman Chase,
Yes.
Mr. Howe,
Yes.
Steinhauer,
Yes.
Ms. MacIver,
Yes.
Mr. Mettler,
Yes.
Mr. Onyaka,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Chairman Orsini.
Yes.
Thanks, guys.
No problem. Waiting for that one no vote. Okay. First application tonight, Victor Scar, PLN 15-00007. Minor subdivision.
You want to turn the mic on because it'll pick up. There's two slide up and. He's got to go real close. Yeah, it's kind of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Art Scar, attorney. I'm here on behalf of my uncle, the applicant. I'm not going to waste very much time this evening explaining what the application is all about. It's a simple, small, minor subdivision, and I will simply introduce the engineer, Mr. Robert Templin, who will present his work.
Want to swear him in?
Sure do. If you could stand for me. Raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're going to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Could you state your name, spell your last name for the record, and give us your professional address?
You need to use the other mic just so that it picks up.
Robert Templin,
I don't know if that one's on.
Templin. And I'm at 861 Eisenhower Avenue, Bridgewater, New Jersey.
Are you licensed in the state of New Jersey?
Yes, I'm a licensed surveyor and engineer in the state of New Jersey. I've been practicing for about 30 years.
Okay, you're accepted.
As mentioned, we're here this evening for a minor subdivision on Stockton Avenue. It's Lot 37 and Block 20.02. And what we have is about a 5-acre tract, and we want to create one lot, a 1-acre lot. The lot will have frontage on Stockton Avenue, while we'll be creating a flagstaff to the rear of the property where there's an existing dwelling and an existing metal garage. And that lot is approximately my mistake. The tract is actually 5.987 acres. and we're going to create a lot which would be 4.9 acres in the back with a flagstaff, and we'd have an acre in the front, and we're proposing a new house on that lot. We have sewer, and we're going to connect into the sewer with the proposed dwelling. And as far as the bulk requirements, we meet all the bulk requirements for the proposed lot. And we are missing one of the requirements for the flag portion of the lot. We're not proposing any buffer along the existing driveway. We have an existing driveway in that flagstaff servicing the rear lot. And adjacent to the property, just to the south, there's a macadam driveway which services both Lot 35 and 36.02 to our south. And the reason we're not proposing a buffer is both driveways have been there since the 50s. I have pictures this evening if the board would like to see them. These pictures will show you the existing hedgerow and existing vegetation between the two properties.
Shall I give the pictures to the zoning officer or chairman?
Yeah, you can give them to me. We'll just call it A1, Exhibit A1.
Are there multiple copies of the same picture, or do we have multiple pictures?
Multiple pictures.
Okay, so then, can we collectively call it A1? As a packet, or is every one of these gonna have to be different?
A1 is going to be a packet of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 photos.
Okay.
Mr. Templin, who took those photos?
The applicant took the photos, but I know,
They were taken at your direction,
yes,
and they were taken when, approximately?
approximately the 28th and the 29th of September.
Okay, and they accurately represent the condition of the driveway and the hedgerow between the two lots?
Yes, they do.
Okay, great, thanks.
The first picture is a picture taken from Stockton Avenue looking at the tree row that's between the macadam driveway, which is to the south of our property on the left, and the stone driveway, which has been servicing this property since the mid-50s on the right. The second picture that you see
We
is...
probably don't have to go through all the pictures, and I think your testimony is that essentially you have a wooded lot, and so there's really no need for screening, because it is screened naturally.
It has been that way for like 50
It's
years.
been that way since the 50s.
Yes.
Yeah, I think and not only that, when you're going through the pictures, there are things that are out of the order that we're looking at them, so they're not necessarily narrated in that sequence, so I think that's that we can just
Okay.
take that.
And basically, if we did have to put the buffer in, we'd have to rip out the existing vegetation to plant the trees.
Right, no need for that.
Okay, so there's really no negative impact on the zone plan or for the neighborhood by just not putting the trees in. Well, I could go through a couple of the engineering comments. Most of them we have absolutely no problem with.
The only ones you need to discuss with us is anything that you can't comply with, or feel you don't need to comply with, or is any other way in variance with the staff report?
Yeah, just one quick note while we're at it.
Yeah.
On the larger lot, the large garage does not need a variance. The 40-foot front yard setback, we only use for the main structure. So that, the two little tiny sheds technically the existing ones need variances because they're 2 or 3 feet away, and they're supposed to be 5, but they're existing. But the larger garage does not, because it only applies to the main structure.
Okay.
Well, that takes care of one of my comments. Yes, I didn't think that we would need a setback for the existing metal garage. The canvas shed that's located behind that metal garage is really a movable structure. We could move that if the board wanted us to. The frame shed, which is shown just to the northwest of that canvas shed, is a very small frame shed. It's been there for, I don't want to say forever, but almost. And if it had to be moved, we'd have no problem with that. But if we could leave it there, it has no impact on the adjoining property. It's all wooded. Lot 38 utilizes the front portion of the property for the house and some lawn area, and then it's heavily wooded to the rear. So if the board saw fit to grant the variance, we would leave the sheds there. If not, we would move them to the required setback. The existing dwelling has a well which services the property as well as an existing septic system. There's an existing well pump on the proposed lot. That pump will be sealed, and a new well will be installed to service the single-family residence. The rest of the comments in his report, we have no problem with and will comply with.
Okay. I don't know that there's any other, okay, Sewerage Authority doesn't really have anything much to say. Health, I assume you can comply with health.
Yes, the health department wants us to show the existing, the system and the tank,
Yeah.
and we'll show the connection into the house also.
Seal.
Question, there's a 12-foot wide driveway. I read in there somewhere, it's 12 feet.
Okay.
Vince, I don't see any fire report. Is 12 feet wide enough for a fire truck?
He had no objection to it. There was a report. He had no objection to the subdivision as planned. So,
Okay, I didn't, it says no report to
Yeah.
date on here.
yeah, there was a report,
Okay.
and he had no objection to it.
Okay, the other comment, I noticed a comment about no potential future sidewalk connections, but we've been asking applicants to contribute to the sidewalk fund for future sidewalks. Ted, your comments on that?
Boy, you would never in a million years have sidewalks there.
So forget it on this one.
Yeah, yeah, and particularly since this is just a subdivision, with one house to be built.
Okay. I wanted to see what you would say.
Mark, you had a report, at least that I was able to read on my phone, and I wondered if you, I don't think it had,
No, I think basically my report, most of it was going through the flag lot standards, basically showing that they complied with almost all of them. And they've already addressed the visual buffering requirement. And just also, one of those requirements is the driveway has to be 12 feet in width, so they basically comply with that requirement. Now, you're basically using the existing driveway for the flag lot?
It's just going to remain the same, yes. It's
Okay.
going to be used for the flag lot. We're going to have a new driveway for the proposed house.
Okay. Because there are some standards in here that talk about the driveway has to be surfaced with 3/4 inch quarry processed stone to a depth of 6 inches and tracking pad, things like that. But since you're using the existing driveway, I'm assuming you're asking for waivers from those requirements since it's the existing driveway.
Yes, it's been there for 60-some-odd years now. Yes, so we're
And
looking
it's
for
going to serve the
waivers.
continue to serve the existing home.
Yes.
Okay. One other question, Mr. Chairman. Our ordinance prohibits, once a flag lot is created, from future subdivision of that flag lot. The flag pole that the applicant has proposed is just short of 50 feet, which, lends itself for the potential for future subdivision. So my question is, if the applicant would be willing to reduce the width of that flagpole to the minimum of perhaps, the minimum is 30 feet. And then that would prohibit the lot from being subdivided. You wouldn't be able to put a road back there at some point in the future. Would the applicant be opposed to that?
The applicant would be willing to restrict the actual subdivision of the flag lot unless it was together with this particular lot. Sometime in the future, his family may decide to subdivide the whole tract. So if the lots are together, we wouldn't want to deed restrict it. But as far as the flag lot on its own, not being subdivided, there's no problem.
Okay, I'm not
Yeah.
quite sure.
I'm not quite understanding that, because the flag lot is the one that
could get.
it has enough property to be subdivided. And we have a prohibition in our ordinance that once you subdivide it, a flag lot, you can't do it again. So you'd be requesting a variance, and what we're saying is that we would like it either to be deed restricted, that you can't, or make the flagpole 30 feet, because that would not allow you to subdivide, because you need 50-foot right-of-way to be able to do that.
I understand where you're headed with that, and I think we're talking about the same thing. In other words, what I'm saying is I don't have a problem restricting the flag lot from further subdivision on its own. But if it's conjoined
Oh,
with
gotcha.
another lot,
Okay.
or like 5 other lots, I don't want.
Oh, sure, sure. If they were.
If they were coming
sure.
back to this
Got it,
board.
Got it.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Well, I think the flag, reducing the width of the flagpole then basically does that without a deed restriction, and then,
That would not be a
you
problem.
know, if somebody was able to acquire additional lands in the future and do a compliant subdivision, well, you have that right.
Fine. That, we have no problem with that. We'll make it a 30-foot flag then.
Great, thank
That's
you.
perfect.
That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any questions from the board on any of these reports or for the applicant?
Question, Mike?
Oh, Carl.
Sorry.
It's a comment.
Being you're doing the subdivision now, you realize you'll have to come in for a plot plan and a building permit at a future date. We're not approving the house or any kind of stormwater drainage and anything. As such, on sheet 1, you should remove note number 5. Because ultimately, it'll probably, based on the township ordinance, you're gonna be required to comply with the minor development.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, that was noted in Scott Thomas's report in point 5. The application will be subject to the township's minor development ordinance.
Yes.
Anything else? No? Okay,
I move to open to the public.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody from the public wishing to come forward and speak on this application?
Mr. Chairman, seeing no one coming forward, I would move that the public hearing on this application be closed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any summation you want to make, or it's pretty cut and dried? What?
I think we should move immediately to a vote on the application and get home to watch the Mets.
I agree
not
with
such a
that
bad idea.
sentiment.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the application.
Second.
Councilman Chase,
Yes.
Mr. Howe,
Yes.
Steinhauer,
Yes.
MacIver,
Yes.
Mr. Mettler,
Yes.
Anyaka,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas.
Yes.
Chairman Orsini.
Yes.
Pretty good.
Good
Like I
luck.
said,
Thank you.
I told you 20 minutes.
Now, unfortunately,
Pretty good.
the obstacle to our Met viewing has just entered the room. But I know he's going to do his best.
Just to let you know, Mr. Chairman, we've asked Mr. Ford to actually bring his license with him tonight.
Wow. You're taking his word all those years?
It's all, 10 years we've been taking his word since I've been here, and I've never seen it.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Peter Lanford appearing on behalf of the applicant. While my professionals are setting up the exhibits, I will try to briefly outline the application. This is an application for property on Route 27. The exact street address is 3111 Route 27. It's just north of the intersection of Route 27 and Stewart. The application is to construct an office building, which will be partially used for medical, and the rest of it, part of it is going to be leased for general office, and some of it is going to be leased to whomever. The application entails 3 variances, variance for lot frontage, which is an existing condition. I'm sorry, it's two variances. Lot frontage, which is an existing condition, and also the parking variance. I do have three witnesses, four witnesses when Ms. Dolan appears. She's not here yet. She is on her way, so I will have the architect testify, then the applicant, and then Mr. Ford. I will try to go through this as quickly as I can. With respect to the staff reports, we've had some conversations with some of the officials after we got the staff reports, and they're generally resolved, so that should not take a lot of time. I will start my testimony with the architect.
Do you swear the testimony you're going to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Certainly, it's going to be true.
Okay, if you could state your name, spell your last name, and provide your professional address for the record.
Sure. My name is Nehal Zaveri. That's N as in Nancy, E-H-A-L, and last name is Zaveri, J-H-A-V as in Victor, E-R-I, and the address is 250 West Main Street, Moorestown, New Jersey 08057.
Nihal, you can have a seat.
Licensed in the state of New Jersey?
Yes.
Okay. Is he qualified?
He is.
Thank you.
By that very fact.
Okay. Nihal, you prepared the architectural plans and the rendering in conjunction with this application, did you not?
That is correct. I did.
Okay. I am going to mark for the record the colorized plans of the building as A1. And then we have, which is part of the plan set, which was submitted in conjunction with the plan, A2, which are all the elevations and floor plans of the building. I will mark it as one exhibit. I do also, for the ease of the board, have copies which I will pass out, which include the colorized plans plus the floor plans and elevations.
Thank you, sir.
You prepared the building, which is the subject of this application, is that correct?
That is correct.
And when you were retained to prepare the building, you were retained by the owner of the property who will be one of the primary occupiers of that building, is that correct?
That is correct.
And the building is how many stories?
It's 2 stories.
All right. And the owner of the property is a medical group or a
Right.
company?
Right.
And they will occupy the entire first floor?
They are.
Okay, and the second floor of the building is broken down into how many rental spaces?
Well, currently what we have shown on the drawings is 2 spaces, but most likely it might be rented into 3 spaces depending on the needs of the future tenants.
Okay, what is the gross floor area of each of the floors of the?
Total, the gross floor area for the first floor is 4,977 square feet, and second floor is 5,263 square feet.
Okay, so the second floor is slightly larger, and is that because you cantilevered the building?
Yes, I did.
And why did you cantilever the building?
That's a good question. Actually, I wanted to feel air up above. I'm sorry. What we have is constraints by the site access. That's one of the main things. So the footprint, we wanted to try and keep it as small as possible. And upstairs, just to maximize the use of the space, we cantilevered 4 feet. That's one reason. The second reason also is it breaks the building and doesn't make it look like just a box. That's the other thing. And the third thing also, we have a walkway down below on the first floor. So it protects partially also the walkway and the windows down below.
Okay. Can you indicate briefly what materials will be used in the construction of the building?
Definitely. These are more or less standard materials that you would see on most commercial properties. One of the thing is we wanted to highlight that this is an office building, and it sort of stands out by the colors that primarily what we have selected right now. But it's a brick veneer. And what we have is stucco panels. We call it stucco panels because they are cement board panels, maintenance-free, that you can put it up on the walls. And you can change the colors if you need to down the road. The majority of the windows, again, they are all aluminum frame windows with glass in it.
Okay. And will there be any lighting on the building?
That certainly is the case. We're going to have lights on all sides of the building. You can see on the elevations that we have noted that few lights all around. So starting from the front, the idea was not to really have any lights on the building by the means of any wall-mounted light as such. So what we have proposed is there should be some lights down below which washes the building lightly, not really power wash kind of thing. So that would be the case in the front. And when you are towards the driveway, what we have is just two wall-mounted lights on either side of this projection that we have on the second floor. Also, the downlights, there are some recessed lights, what we called out on the elevations also, in that 4-foot cantilever that we have. So we would have that basically shines light on the pathway that's there, and also it's more like an accent feature just for that cantilever portion. Same thing again on the other sides. We have two wall-mounted lights on each side, and whatever the light's going to be required for the exit doors for the staircase. Okay, sorry.
The principal entrance to the building would be on the parking lot side of the building, is that correct?
Absolutely.
And then there are two other methods of ingress and egress to the building, which would be on the southerly side of the building, correct?
You're right.
Okay. And is the building sprinklered?
It is sprinklered.
And where are all of the HVAC systems going to be placed in the building and all the mechanicals?
Yes, typically, again, as other buildings, it would be up on the roof.
And there's a parapet around the building so that all the mechanicals will be screened?
Yeah, so what we have decided here to go with is a 3-foot parapet all along, and the 4-foot parapet that we have is with where the cantilever is, and that's where we envision to have the HVAC units, so it's completely screened.
Okay. Thank you. I have no further questions of this witness.
Any questions from the board?
Just as a matter of curiosity, I noticed in the plans there are bathrooms on the second floor, but not on the first.
Right. Good question. What I prefer normally in my designs that you should try and centralize the sanitary as much as possible. So that is one of the reasons to have it on the second floor, not each and individual suites to have their own bathroom if it's not required. The first floor, on the other hand, it is still yet to be decided that what is the layout going to be, and it's only one tenant. So that is the building owner is going to occupy it. So they would dictate, based on the medical practice, where the bathrooms and how many bathrooms they would need. Good question.
Any other questions?
Just one question. You'd mentioned that on the driveway side of the lot, under the cantilever, that there was going to be a sidewalk there. The plans actually have landscaping there, and I don't really see the need for a sidewalk. So I guess you can clarify what actually is proposed.
Okay. That's something I believe our engineers should be able to suggest. We did show as a green walk over there, so whether it's going to be a sidewalk or Do we have a sidewalk? We don't. Okay, sorry about it. So it is still going to be a green
Okay.
patch.
All right, thank you.
Okay, can I just ask one more question very quickly? There is no signage proposed as part of our submission package, is that correct?
Currently, that's the case.
Okay, and we would propose to put a conforming sign on the building. The ordinance allows an attached sign on the building of 30 square feet, and we would propose to place a conforming sign on the Route 27 side of that building. Is that correct?
So certainly, it's going to be a conforming sign on the Route 27 side. Also, there probably might be a building number on the corner where the driveway is.
Okay, thank you. Now I have no further questions.
Okay, who's your next witness?
Thank you very much.
Ms. Patel.
Do you swear the testimony you're going to provide us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
That's right.
Okay, if you could state your name, spell your last name for the record, and provide your address.
Sure. My name is Jignia Patel.
You have to speak louder or
Okay.
hold the microphone closer.
Okay. My name is Jignia Patel, Patel, P-A-T-E-L. Address is 50 Meadowlark Lane, Belmead, New Jersey.
Okay, Ms. Patel, you can have a seat.
Thanks.
Ms. Patel, what is your occupation?
I'm office manager or the owner of the medical practice, 247 Heart and Vascular.
Okay, and are you a physician?
No, I'm not.
You're just a manager of the practice?
Yes.
Okay, and you are building the building or leasing the first floor of the building to the medical practice?
Yes.
Okay, can you indicate to the board where the medical practice currently operates?
We're located across the street from the IHOP on Route 27.
Okay, and do you have other locations?
Yes, we sublease offices from other physicians, one in Monroe and one in Hillsborough.
And can you describe the nature of the practice?
We have, it's a cardiology practice. We have 3 physicians. Majority of our work takes place at the hospital. We're affiliated with Robert Wood Johnson, Somerset Medical Center, and St. Peter's and Princeton.
Okay, and at the proposed facility, the medical practice will occupy the entire first floor of the building, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and how many doctors will practice out of that building?
It will be 3 physicians.
And will the 3 physicians be there at one time?
No.
How does this normally work as far as your practice, on how many physicians are on site as opposed to being at your other locations or at the hospital?
So usually we have 1 physician, primarily maybe not even 20 hours a week at this location. Majority of our physician rounds at the 4 hospital that I had stated before. We also do at a rehab center. So we have very few activities going on, not like other cardiology group, but majority of our in the office is very limited.
So would you say that each of the 3 physicians on average would be there 20 hours per week?
No, only 1 physician will be there, currently is there 20 hours a week, and then 1 physician is there maybe like not even 5 hours a week, and the 3rd physician will be primarily at the hospital.
Okay. How many support staff, either administrative or nurses or other people, would also work there?
4.
Okay. And what, at your current location, is the average patient load that comes into the facility on a given day?
In a given day, we actually at that location, and then even at the new location where we would be there only like 3 days, if that, out of the week. And per our busiest days, I believe is Tuesday, and I think we see about maybe 3 patients on an average per hour.
Okay. And what are your hours of operation?
Well, our operations are 9:30 to 5:30. However, the patient operation, that's usually only like 4 hours.
Okay. And that is normally in the middle of the day?
Yes.
And all of your patients are scheduled by appointments? You don't have any walk-ins?
No, we don't.
Okay.
I mean, if somebody stops by, of course, we're going to help them.
Right.
Our physicians are very nice to our public.
But basically, all your
Yes.
scheduling is done on a time basis with your patients?
That's correct.
Okay. And with respect to the parking lot, you understand we've asked for a variance because we don't have sufficient parking spaces as per the township ordinance. In your opinion, are there more than enough parking spaces within the parking lot for your operation?
Yeah, way more than enough. We currently have, across the street, we are assigned 3 parking space over there, and usually that's enough for our patients. Like I said, we don't have too many patients in the office.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
I have 2. Is this basically gonna take what's on the other side of 27 and bring it over this side? Or,
Yes.
so it's not affecting the Hillsborough or other, it's not a consolidation
No.
of the practice
No.
in one location, it's just moving across the street,
Yes.
essentially?
Mhm.
Why do you want to move across the street?
Uh,
Other than Franklin's better than South Brunswick?
We would like to, one, the space where, when we moved from Princeton to this area, majority of our patients were coming from this. It was convenient. So when we moved, we have very limited choices where to rent. Once we rented this place, we realized that the space is not enough, in such that the waiting room, there's only like maybe 5 chairs. A lot of time, family
So
comes.
it's just not big enough?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. The question I have for you, Peter, is, so your testimony is that their part of the parking isn't gonna affect the spaces, but obviously they're only on the first floor, so you've got the whole second floor.
Mm-hmm.
So, you don't quite know who the tenants there are yet, could be 1, could be 2.
Not that, well,
So-
my next witness will pick up another
Okay,
1,000 square feet.
I just wanna make sure that as you're building your case for this variance, and a very good case it might be, it's the board to realize that this only accounts for half the space or so.
That is correct.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, next.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Hitesh
Thank
Patel.
Hello. If you could raise your right hand for me. Do you swear the testimony you're going to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
If you could state your name, spell your last name, and give us your address for the record.
Hitesh Patel, last name Patel, same, Patel, and my address is 5 Riverbird Circle, Princeton, New Jersey.
Okay, Mr. Patel, what is your occupation?
I'm a finance manager, and I handle property maintenance for some of the other projects.
Okay, and were you responsible in assisting Ms. Patel in getting this project together?
Yes, I am.
And will you be, in fact, managing this property for her?
Correct.
Okay. In addition to that, will you be leasing space within the building?
Yes, I am.
How much space will you be leasing within the building?
Approximately 1,000 square feet on the second floor.
Okay. And do you have any employees?
Currently, no.
Okay. Do you envision having employees in the future?
Maybe a part-time.
Okay. And basically, what kind of operations will take place within the space that you are going to be leasing?
More record keeping and occasional meeting.
Visitors coming in for a meeting?
Yes, but that's maybe once a week.
Okay. And so that now we have accounted for basically the entire first floor and basically about 25% of the upper level. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Are you currently marketing the rest of the property?
No, we have not.
Okay. And you don't intend to market until after the building's under construction?
Correct.
Okay. But it's your intent to be there long-term and basically run your operations out of the subject property?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions.
Any questions from the board?
Just a clarification for Mr. Lanford. I'm assuming Ms. Dolan's going to address, this is one tenant, but I'm assuming Ms. Dolan's going to address use as a general office building, or,
As a mixed-use medical,
mixed-use
yeah.
office building, and that it would still meet the requirements if it was, he could be here for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, there could be a new tenant.
I understand that, Mr. Healy, yeah. she will testify as to the adequacy of parking, whether it's going to be, the opposite can happen too. The downstairs could be a general office building too in the future, you never know. Things change, but she'll testify as to the adequacy of parking if the building is fully occupied, either as medical, general, or a combination thereof, assuming she arrives.
Great, thank you.
So, Mr. Ford's next?
Mr. Ford is next.
Okay, we're moving right along.
Do you swear the testimony you're going to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
If you could state your name, spell your last name, and give your address for the record, please.
Michael Ford, Ford, licensed professional engineer and planner in the state of New Jersey, employed with Van Cleef Engineering. Professional address is 32 Brower Lane, Hillsborough, New Jersey.
And you've testified as a professional engineer and planner before this board on previous occasions and have been so qualified.
Correct.
And you have your license with you tonight?
You are going
Please
to
accept.
you're going to rely on certain exhibits, Mr. Ford. Perhaps we can mark them.
Yes. 8-2?
A3.
We're up to
A3.
A3. If you could add the date as well, today's the 21st.
Okay.
Thanks.
And Mr. Ford, A3 is a colorized rendering of the site plan that was submitted in conjunction with this application
Correct.
and part of your plan set?
Yes.
Okay.
And if you want to mark, what we're here, A4 is basically the same plan with an expanded view of the surrounding area. And that wasn't part of their plan set.
Okay. Mr. Ford, obviously you're familiar with the subject property and also the land uses surrounding the subject property. Is that correct?
Correct.
First of all, can you briefly describe the subject property, its dimensions, and what's located on the subject property at the present time?
Okay. We're located at the intersection of Stewart Avenue and Route 27. Stewart Avenue is at the bottom of the page, and Route 27 is on the right-hand side or the south end of the property. The intersection is a signalized intersection controlled by traffic signal. And you can see the turning movements in the aerial view beyond the property. The property, the subject of the application is what's colorized in the center of that plan. It's a rectangular shape. There is an existing dwelling on the property and a driveway to Route 27, which will be removed as part of this application.
Okay. And just for the record, this property is actually not at the intersection because there is a homeowners association, part of Society Hill, that is actually between our property and the intersection and between our property and Stewart Avenue. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And what is to the north of the property?
North of the property is a retail building. I believe it's known as Tasty Sub Shop.
Right.
And then beyond that is a daycare center and the new IHOP facility. You can see that actually in the bottom rendering. The sub shop, the daycare, the IHOP, and the retail beyond IHOP, which I understand was developed as a unit.
Okay.
And then to our south is
Walgreens.
the Walgreens pharmacy.
And
You know, as long as you're on this sort of topic with this sliver of land, it might be worth mentioning what is noted in the staff reports, because obviously one big question is, why wouldn't the driveway be out to Stewart Avenue?
The sliver of land we're referring to is this sliver of land.
And I think this would probably be a good time
Sure.
to explain that whole thing, right?
okay,
Yes.
if I may, I can do that. When the applicant came to me and when we sat down with Mr. Ford, we tried to look at various ways to get other access to the subject property other than through directly onto Route 27. On November 5th of 2014, I did send a letter to the Society Hill 2 Condo Association, which we can mark as a 5. Am I correct?
You are.
Yes.
and asked if they would grant us an easement to get out to Stewart Avenue, similar to what they did with Walgreens across the street from us. They, through their attorneys at Hill Wallach, on November 26th, responded that they had a discussion with the association and that they were not interested in granting any easements out to Stewart Avenue. So that, I will mark that letter from Hill Wallach as a 6. And I believe Mr. Healy also attempted, and if he wants to discuss that, I think he had
Well,
tried to reach out
yeah,
to the association.
Certainly from a site planning perspective, and a curb cut on Stewart would be much more preferred than in the intersection on Route 27. So with that in mind, I also tried to contact their attorney, left a message, and that message was not returned.
I also even went the other way and contacted the owner of the property to the north of us to see if they perhaps would be willing to sell their property so that we can perhaps have a common or shared driveway or work out something. And I sent them a letter on September 9th. I will mark that letter as a 7.
Mr. Lanford, September 9th of this year?
2014, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
And in response to that letter, I did have a few phone calls or phone conversations with the owners of the adjoining property. When all of the dust settled, they indicated that they were not interested in selling their property to us. So that went out the door. So that deals with the issue of alternative methods of ingress and egress. Now, going back to, are there any questions on
No,
that?
that was good.
Okay. Mr. Ford, can you describe?
Ted might have.
Did you make any attempt to contact the homeowners association directly rather than through their attorney?
No, I wrote the letter to the association. It was sent to the association, and the association responded through their attorney. I also called and left messages at the association which were left unresponded to.
No, so you did call them as well?
Yes, I
as
did.
Sending a letter, yeah, okay.
All right, Mr. Ford, very briefly, can you take the board through what we are proposing on the subject property?
Okay. The proposal is to eliminate the existing driveway, which is actually on the south side of the property, closer to the intersection. Create a new driveway to Route 27 on the northeast side of the property, traversing alongside the building to a 55 parking lot at the rear of the property. The property generally slopes to the rear or to the north. Okay. And as was discussed already, we actually prepared concept plans that included the driveway out to Stewart through the homeowners association property to try to illustrate what would be needed to perfect that. And that was our preferred option. And obviously, as just was stated, the owners of that property were not interested. There are the main entrance to the building is actually at the rear of the property, immediately adjacent to the parking lot. There's landscaping both on the east and west side of the parking area, and there's been some landscape plan comments in the reports that we will comply with. With regards to utilities in Route 27 at the frontage and actually servicing the existing building or house, which will obviously be repaired or upgraded as needed. There are existing public sewer, water, gas, and electric. There was a comment in the review memos, and this goes to the introduction by Mr. Lanford regarding staff discussion since we received the reports. In Mr. House's report, there was a suggestion that an on-site fire hydrant be placed, and I had a correspondence with Mr. House via email with a sketch showing that there is an existing hydrant immediately in front of the property where I'm pointing to in the near the intersection, literally about 25 feet from the proposed building, and the building will be fully sprinklered, and the fire department connection for the sprinkler system will be placed in that front portion of the building so that it's about 25 feet from that hydrant. And with that explanation and sketch, Mr. House was satisfied and felt that there wouldn't be a need to provide a hydrant on site. So there would be all the utility connections in the front of the building, public water, sewer, gas, and that fire department connection with the close proximity to that existing fire hydrant. There was also a request by Mr. House to not only stripe the access driveway for no parking on the west side, but also on the east side as well. We'll comply with that request. Any other? I don't want to.
Okay.
I'm getting into too many detailed gearhead engineering.
Discuss on-site circulation, please, and then we'll go back to all of the staff reports.
Yes. This ties in again to that alternate access or a different access. Because of the shape of the property and the only frontage being Route 27, we're limited to the configuration with a dead-end parking arrangement. In a practical sense, it's envisioned that the parking spaces obviously closest to the building would be filled first, and people would fill the spaces toward the rear of the property last. We've placed the handicap parking spaces immediately adjacent to that main entrance, which I said was at the rear of the building or the opposite side of the building from the frontage on Route 27. We've also placed the dumpster enclosure on the other side of the driveway opposite the handicap spaces. Again, from a practical sense, that is that the dumpster is not too far away from the building itself and provides for a turning movement of a garbage pickup truck for that dumpster, which would be a private hauler that the owners of the building could coordinate pickups so that it's off hours. And as was testified to earlier, at least the first floor certainly would have limited hours, which would give greater opportunities and flexibility for that trash pickup at times that wouldn't conflict with the on-site activity. Could be early or late in the day. And there was a suggestion that the trash enclosure be moved to the rear of the parking area, and I'll highlight what I understand that to be, which would be the trash enclosure being moved from here where a truck pulls in, picks up the trash, utilizes actually a wider access area next to the handicap space, makes the U-turn and exits the property. The trash enclosure alternate location that was suggested in the professionals review was at the end of the parking area, which puts it quite a distance from the building, and then also a longer distance from Route 27 for the truck pickup and pull down and back up and making that maneuver. Our preference, and this is after discussions with the owners and the primary tenants of the building, would be to leave the trash enclosure where it's at. I had, again, in this day of technology, email and voice mail communication over the last 48 hours with your engineering department staff. I explained to him the owners and our explanation as to why the trash enclosure is located where it's at. He understood that and suggested that we make this presentation tonight, and it would be up to the board's purview of how you'd like to proceed, and we would certainly, as any condition of approval, work that detail out with your engineering department to their satisfaction.
But our preference is obviously to leave
Leave it where it's at.
trash enclosure where we're proposing it.
Right.
Correct. All right, can you indicate to the board what the trash enclosure is going to look like?
I think right now we have a plan detailed that's one of those typical concrete slabs with the board-on-board fence around it. What was discussed after receiving the staff review memo was that the trash enclosure would be constructed of material emulating the proposed building. That is a masonry trash enclosure with a exterior stucco finish that would match the building. And then obviously the gates in the front would have to be the wood slats, not a chain link fence that would obscure or allow access to the dumpster, but also make it more visually appealing structure.
Okay. Are we proposing any lighting within the parking lot?
Yes, there is parking lighting, and there was one of the staff review comments that we would comply with to provide some additional lighting in areas that they felt were underlit.
And can you just briefly take the board through the landscaping plan that you propose in conjunction with the project?
Okay. Street trees along the frontage. There's been, as part of the application submittal package, a tree preservation and mitigation, tree mitigation plan that is in accordance with your ordinance, where the trees to be removed are replaced at the mathematical required standards in accordance with the ordinance, and those trees are a mix of evergreens and deciduous down both sides of the parking area. Immediately off-site, between our property and Stewart Avenue, as was discussed earlier, there's that sliver of land that's owned by the homeowners association, which has existing vegetation in it, including a nice row of street trees along Stewart Avenue, or Stewart.
So essentially, you're going to comply with
Yes.
that.
Well, Mr. Healy had recommended in his report, and I just want to touch the rear of the property, that there are no proposed trees at the rear of the property, and why there aren't any.
Yeah, we hadn't designated, I know there's an ordinance requirement because our zone butts a residential zone, which is part of that residential community in back of us. There's a requirement to have buffering between the residential zone and our site activity. We didn't plant trees there or propose trees there because immediately adjacent to us, and this is what this exhibit was really prepared to illustrate, because there were also questions in the staff reports to clarify this for the board's consideration, was what our immediate neighbor looked like. And our immediate neighbor is basically the stormwater detention basin for that residential community, and you can see really the closest building in that community is shown on the other side of Stewart Avenue.
So what's
Street.
that little patch of green in the rear? that you-
There's existing vegetation there now that we wouldn't disturb.
Okay.
We leave it alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do that.
And that's where the stormwater runs off now. So there was actually a comment in the reports about if the stormwater management system, which is a porous pavement system with an underground infiltration stone detention system, if that were to fail, if the porous pavement became completely clogged, what would happen, what would be the potential adverse impact to our immediate neighbor? And again, our immediate neighbor is the wooded area, and then beyond that, the detention basin for the residents to the rear.
And you have no problem doing more columnar-type trees in the front?
Not at all. Yeah, that's, all the landscape comments are not an issue.
Okay, good.
Just briefly, the variances that we are seeking are a lot frontage variance, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, the lot frontage in the NV zone is 100 feet, and our lot frontage is 86 or 85 feet, is that?
85 feet. That's the existing condition,
Okay. And the other
a
variance
way of correcting that.
Which also probably could have been mitigated somewhat if you were able to acquire that strip of land, or if you were able to, acquire it, or even to, an easement wouldn't have taken care of it.
Right.
But if you were just able to acquire it,
Correct.
couldn't do that, so.
Exactly.
And the other variance is the parking variance, which Ms. Dolan, when she walked through the door.
No wonder we're talking about the trash enclosure so much. We're calling for time.
She's close.
There was also.
You got a
do
GPS on her?
you want to
I asked her.
talk about the DOT and we'll limit it right in?
Having trouble with traffic, perhaps.
That's good.
So,
We'll deny it, there's no traffic.
Now,
Is,
Should I
before-
talk slower?
no. Staff reports, you
Right.
just want to go through those and anything you can't comply with?
I think we've basically hit on all the key elements.
What's with the health, the health report?
Oh, that was a citing of a violation because the grass got too high on the property.
And it was cut, the violation was taken care of and resolved. That was done
They
months
want
ago.
to take you to court for that?
What?
They want to take you to court for that?
They had wanted to, yes.
Yeah, we issue a summons, and if you don't show up, then you're
Now,
in trouble.
Just mow the damn lawn.
What happened was they didn't get the notice, and then a summons was issued, the summons was paid, the grass is
So
cut.
it's taken care of.
It's all taken care of.
Beautiful, because that sounded alarming.
Yeah,
If
I
it were to be
noticed
way
the
that-
grass has
Right.
been cut recently.
Right, and then the property's being maintained, that was an
Is
oversight.
Ms. Dolan the one that we're going to talk to about the driveway and all that?
Yes,
Okay, because I mean, that's
right.
my biggest issue is, obviously,
Ac-
since you can't do Stewart, what
Right.
are we going to do on 27? Of course, it's probably more up to the state than us. Speaking of which, just a matter of bookkeeping, do you have the New Jersey DOT report or no?
We've made application to DOT, they have not responded to us, but Ms. Dolan will testify to that.
Okay.
They have not. I think as I'm looking through the staff reports, I think we've addressed all of Mr. Healy's comments. He had asked that some bollards be placed around the dumpster. We can do that, and everything else I think we have addressed. And other than the discussion that Mr. Ford had concerning the fire hydrant and concerning the looped water, I think we've addressed everything, or can address everything in Mr. Vega's report. Is that correct, Mr. Ford?
Correct.
Okay.
Is the water paid up?
All, that is paid up.
A few questions, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Both on my reports and my report on engineering. Mr. Vega mentions correctly that the width of the driveway is required to be 22 feet.
We'll make it
Site-
2 feet wider.
22, okay,
Right.
you're going to comply with that?
Yes.
As far as the trash enclosure, I think maybe instead of putting bollards, is it possible, because right now you kind of have it just floating out in the middle of the parking, in the middle of the pavement, I should say. Is there any reason why that couldn't have some curbs around it?
Yeah, we can do that. That was actually a suggestion, I thought, in one of the reports.
Okay.
It just, we would provide that, but not to the extent, obviously, coordinate with Mr. Vega about getting the truck in and out.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah, and I mean, since we still don't have Ms. Dolan here, yeah, we can talk about trash. My preference, I can't speak for the rest of the board, but my preference would be to have it closer to the building. It doesn't make sense to have to haul the trash all the way to the back of the property. But I agree with Mark, and it somehow has to be like, not sitting there, because somebody could run into it. I mean, let's face facts, right? You're a cardiovascular practice, so your clientele may be elderly, maybe, whatever. And, you can't just have that thing sitting out there with no demarcation around it or anything.
Yeah, no, with the staff comment included, rather than striping to direct traffic, to put some more physical elements like the curb and depressed curb we can use for access to the dumpster. I'm sure we could work that out, did those details with Mr. Vega. And perhaps even additional landscaping in that area.
I mean,
That would be wonderful.
That's what's typical. I mean, I think when people,
Yeah.
they would expect it to be within, behind a curb, and then have some landscaping around it, and you'd mentioned it'll be within the masonry structure, so I think that'll take care, and you can work out the details with engineering.
Yeah, I'm sure hoping it's not poor Ms. Patel over there who's gonna have to, haul the trash all the way down in the thing in a snowstorm, just, maybe the office manager doesn't do that, but, just in case, that doesn't make sense.
All right.
All right, see, well, it's a good thing. So I saved you some steps there.
Engineering mentions the question about clarification about the DOT right-of-way. Can one of you speak to that?
I think that's, I'm sorry to say, for Mrs. Dolan.
Okay.
Because,
No,
It's
that's
the
fine.
ETA on Ms.
yeah,
Dolan.
we're not in the right-of-way,
She doesn't
but that's,
realize they go fast.
I asked
Put on
her
there
to
for-
tell me
for
when she'd be
DOT
5 minutes
for some-
away, and she hasn't texted yet. She said 20 minutes ago at least 20 minutes, so she should
She
be here
should be
shortly.
text-
One more thing.
T-minus 20 plus 5. Right?
Sidewalk along the entire frontage, which I think was in engineering's report.
Right.
And then also, and I think, Mr. Lanford, you and I discussed this over the phone, extending it within the right-of-way to the intersection,
I believe,
about 30 feet.
that's on property that's owned by the
No,
association.
it's not.
If it's
Not-
within the
not within the
right-of-way,
That's why I specifically said within the right-of-way.
if it is within the right-of-way, we would have to apply to DOT, and I guess we can include that as part of our request to DOT. I don't think that was ever included, but we can include it.
So while we're still waiting, let's ask the rest of the board if they have any questions for any of the witnesses or on any of the staff reports. I'll start to my right. To my left. Ted?
Oh, I have things to bring up, but they're awaiting Ms. Dolan.
Yeah, yeah.
Same with me.
let's see.
There may be some members of the public here
Yeah.
that have questions if we want to
One
deal with
more question. What did engineering say about the stormwater approach? And do you have any issues with the comments that they had? Did they have any?
No, I didn't discuss that with Mr. Vega. I mean, like, we didn't have a face-to-face or a telephone conversation. It was via email, only with that one particular item. We had a discussion or a preference to leave the dumpster where it's located.
No, no,
All the stormwater will comply to his satisfaction. He raised issues, we'll address each and every one of his issues regarding stormwater to his satisfaction.
Okay.
The emergency overflow for the area, the emergency inflow for the stormwater, the quantity and quality issues that he's raised will all be addressed to his satisfaction.
And none of those, and in addressing those comments, it's not going to affect the site plan layout that you're proposing?
Don't envision an impact,
I
no.
answered a text.
Where is Miss Dolan coming from?
She had indicated she had something to attend with her daughter, and she was hoping to be here by about 8:15, so she is running a little bit late. But it was a family issue.
We do have.
I feel like asking for an adjournment to listen to the Mets game. Oh, good.
They're up 4-0. They hit 2 home runs in the first.
We're not-
Murphy?
Okay, what inning are we?
Duda and I forgot who else.
Duda finally got a hit.
Believe it or not, my agenda is not driven by the team. However, I'm not going to wait for Liz forever. So what's reasonable before we ask for continuation?
Give us 5 minutes. Well, we still have public. Yeah,
Oh, yeah, I know, but.
Yeah, but the public might want to ask questions of Ms. Dolan.
Yeah,
at least they can ask questions of of the witnesses that have previously testified.
we can do that.
One more quick question.
Sure, Mark.
The lighting plan shows area lights on the driveway side of the building at 15 feet.
We're going to have to move them to represent where they're located on that. That was one of your comments. We'll
Yeah.
have to show them on the
You're
lighting
actually
plan
showing it
to.
on the- in a way, where you're showing it, it would be on the first floor. not on
Right,
the-
we'd have to respect the cantilevered area and move them out. That's correct.
And wouldn't then the lights be, the cantilever's right up on the curb? The lights now are going to be over the driveway,
Correct.
and at 15 feet, that's sufficient?
We can put them higher, we can use perhaps maybe even a a soffit light, a soffit light, and take advantage of that cantilever to light the driveway without,
I guess it'd be.
we can work that out with the
It would be the
architect.
same as a freestanding light.
Correct,
That 15 feet would be high enough so
Right.
a truck wouldn't hit it?
right.
Is that a yes?
Yes,
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you just want to engineer them so that they light the driveway and not beyond.
right. And as I'm sitting here, perhaps we can work with the architect and take advantage of that, like I said, that cantilever on that side.
Yeah.
Lower the lights, but that shine it directly onto the driveway.
So
There's only two lights, I think, 3 lights on the building there, yeah.
while we wait for Ms. Dolan for a few more minutes, I could open to the public for any questions not related to traffic or parking, because that's what she's going to testify on, right? The parking requirement and probably the ingress and egress. So, I'm willing to entertain a motion to
I'll
open.
make a motion to open to the public for the questions that they have of these people that have testified.
I would second that with the understanding that once Ms. Dolan arrives, there'd be a second
Yep.
opening to the public so that they might
And
ask
if
her
Ms. Dolan
questions.
doesn't arrive,
Well-
we need a continuation, there'll be a second opening whenever she does testify, absolutely. All in favor?
Aye.
And it's open to the public for this application, probably, don't wanna- probably not. Yep,
That's, yep.
okay, guess we can close, Bob.
Okay, I would move that we close this portion of this portion of this application's public hearing to be reopened later.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so I'll leave her off the hook, for now.
We have our county approval, soil erosion and sediment control approval, and we're not in the DNR Canal Commission review zone. They've said it's not applicable.
So we
Just
open the
trying to-
surprise when she walks in? Is that what's
Nah. Mr. Chairman, the board can do, I don't want to have the board sit here. I'll leave it up to the board as to what they want to do, if they want to continue it.
I'm willing to wait till,
Plenty of.
I'm willing to wait till a quarter to. Okay,
Take them out,
we're
Debbie,
gonna,
please.
we're gonna come back in a session, so, you have your traffic expert, so, Ms. Dolan, who's testified before the board before, I can stipulate that, licensed in the state of New Jersey, yes? You're
Yes.
accepted?
Can we swear her in?
Yes, please.
There we go. Do you swear the testimony you're going to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
And just state your name and spell your last name for the record for us, real quick.
Elizabeth Dolan, Dolan, with Dolan and Dean Consulting in Martinsville, New Jersey, and my license is still in good standing.
Ms. Dolan, although you were not here when the applicant testified this evening concerning the use of the building, you did meet with the applicant in my office earlier this week to review the use of the lower level as a medical office for the cardiology group, and with the limited number of doctors there's only 3, only 2 of which come to the site, one of which is only there 20 hours a week, and the 4 employees, and you're aware of all of that, and that 1,000 feet of the upper level at the present time is going to be used as a general office for the property manager. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. We are asking for a parking variance. The parking requirement for the zone is for 69 spaces, and we are proposing 55. Can you talk to the parking variance first of all?
Certainly. We have performed extensive parking studies at medical offices throughout New Jersey. Many other traffic consultants in New Jersey have also performed these studies. We have found that the actual demand ranges from about 2.8 spaces per thousand to up to 4.6 spaces per thousand. And so even at 4.6, we'd be requiring only 48 spaces. This range is consistent with the Institute of Transportation Engineers, and I face this concern in many medical office applications where there's the thought that more is required. Something like a pediatrician's office, dermatologist's office, those tend to create greater parking demands. But what you've heard from the applicant, as I heard when we met in preparation for this meeting, the tenants that are already slated for this office building will have low parking demands. The fact that the overall supply of 55 spaces exceeds the demands that we've found, and this is over well in excess of 20 or 30 site locations, I'm comfortable with the parking variance, that it can be granted without any negative impacts.
And are you also familiar with 2 similar office buildings that were recently approved in this municipality on Veronica Avenue with basically the same parking ratios?
Yes.
Okay, and the parking ratios that we have on this site are consistent with those?
I believe so, yes.
Thank you. Now, the ingress and egress to the subject property is through a driveway that is being proposed on Route 27, is that correct?
That is correct.
And that is on the most northerly portion of the property furthest away from the intersection, is that correct?
That is also correct.
All right, can you briefly describe to the board What is happening out on Route 27 at that intersection?
That is a signalized intersection at Stewart, immediately south of the property. I believe you heard testimony earlier about our efforts to try and obtain access to Stewart. That was denied by the owners of the strip of land between our property and Stewart Avenue. Because we are immediately proximate to this signalized intersection, the driveway is going to rely on courtesy gaps and the gapping provided by the change in the traffic light at this location. We are entitled to access through the State Highway Access Management Code. The driveway is designed with the 20-foot width minimum that is required by NJDOT. I think we all can agree that this is appropriately operating or should operate as a right-in, right-out driveway. And our application to DOT will include the regulatory signage to prohibit left turns at this location. It is a low-volume driveway. If someone attempted to make a left, certainly during busier times with traffic queuing up at the traffic signal, they're not going to be able to do it. But we did make our best effort to try and obtain signalized access by going to Stewart, but we were denied that. So the applicant's done whatever they can, and now they're subject to the review and approval of DOT. And we'll design the driveway the way DOT guides us, but we're starting with this configuration that's been presented, and we're certainly willing to go with that design plus the regulatory no left turn signs.
Will there be any engineering to the driveway to prevent left turns, or do you think signage is enough? Or
Well, we're already looking at one waiver from our access code for edge clearance, and again, I wasn't a party to it, but there were discussions with our neighbor to the north, where the Tasty Shop is, to possibly combine access or again have shared parking or something. We have limited frontage, and we have an edge clearance waiver because we're trying to keep that driveway far from the intersection. If DOT makes us channelize the driveway, for example, we'll have to probably come back because I think that would modify the site plan to a point that we might lose a couple of parking spaces. So we'll be guided by whatever they require, but I think for such a low volume driveway, they might not require that formal channelization.
Okay, so in other words, right now we can assume that we'll just go with signage.
Correct. And that's how the application to DOT is being prepared.
How would, so I think what the chairman's asking, I believe, is could you have curbing that would prohibit, kind of force people to the right and prohibit people from turning into the site, making a left turn? You're saying there's not enough room on the site to do that?
You would have to push the driveway south because we've already started it at our property line, and we're supposed to be 12 feet off that property line before we start the driveway opening.
Okay.
And to put in, for example, the typical design that we'll have for channelization, you have to have a 75-foot island and radii of about 20 to 25 feet. So by the time you do all of that, you're going to be using up most of the frontage and having to push the building back a bit.
Okay. And that answers my second question, why that would have affected your parking count.
Right. We would really have to, the overall opening plus the island would be in the neighborhood of 70, 80 feet at least. So we're going to be chewing up most of our frontage to try and provide the design that would be typical for a higher volume driveway on a roadway where you're looking to prohibit the left. So it's basically the design with the divided driveway to prohibit lefts is going to take up most of our frontage.
In your opinion, which movement, if any, might be more of a concern to you than the other? Left turn in versus left turn out?
I think that the left turn in, somebody hanging out waiting to cross the two lanes, can they be bypassed? You know, if they pull over enough, maybe so. I think that the left out is always a concern at the board level. I looked at this in terms of the trip generation and the distribution that I recorded through the traffic counts, and we had, you know, at most 26 vehicles coming out of this site, 6 lefts based upon the distribution. I think that somebody might try it during the middle of the day, maybe 10, 11 o'clock when there's not much traffic, but during peak hours, lunchtime even, you're just not going to be able to do it. And so I think what they're going to do is what we've all talked about as we've visited the site is you may U-turn in on Stewart or go through the Walgreens. And I really pushed and hoped for the Stewart Avenue connection. That would have made things great, and I don't know why the homeownership association didn't allow that, but that really would have made sense. For a higher volume use at this location, like a permitted, I guess, bank or restaurant, I think it might be more difficult, but this is a very low volume, small building, and so it's probably the best use for this type of access limitation at this location.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me that the homeowners association would grant a right of way for the Walgreens egress and not for you. I mean, if they were concerned about traffic going through there, the Walgreens is a much bigger volume generator than you guys would be. I don't get it.
Yeah, I can't answer that. I have
Nope.
suspicions, but, suspicions don't rise to testimony or relevance.
No, that's fine. I just have one question. So, yeah, I don't have an issue with the parking. I really don't think it'll be a problem with your use now. But you did cite Veronica, and as Seal will certainly, and I think other board members know, there are some uses on Veronica where that is not the best example to use, especially with the LabCorp, I think.
Yes.
And so I know you can make no promises or guarantees that this building will never be used for that type of screening use or whatever, but there is a possibility that if it were, that this parking would be not sufficient at all.
You did on the Veronica application impose a condition that it not be used for laboratory, and we would accept that on this building also.
Yeah, I'd go for that because I mean that would definitely create demand that would not be satisfied by the
And that would be perfectly acceptable.
Okay. Sorry, Ms. Dillon, are you done?
I'm finished.
Okay. Any board members have questions for her? Ted?
I'd just comment that you could rent the second floor to a trauma physician because they'd get a lot of business from people trying to turn left. I'm very familiar with that intersection, and if I'm southbound and pause to try to let somebody out of the Tasty Freeze, somebody just comes right past me on the right. But there's not enough courtesy there. I will only go to the Tasty Freeze right in and right out.
Tasty sub.
Tasty sub, rather, which I do go to sometimes.
Okay. So we can open to the public for their on this witness, please.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that the meeting be open to the public
Second.
for a hearing on this application.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Yeah, please come to the microphone. Hopefully it's on. If it's not, Peter will help you. He's our engineer. And we'll swear you in.
He has a lot of years of experience with that mic.
See?
My name is David Hogue.
Just 1 second, sir. If I could swear you in real quick, that way if you're going to make any comments instead of a question, we can be all squared away. So if you could raise your right hand for me. Do you swear that any testimony you provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. If you could just state your name, spell your last name, and give your address for the record.
David Hogue, Hogue. My address is 31 Daniel Drive,
Thank you, sir.
Franklin Park. So my question is, if you're coming north on 27, are you going to be allowed to turn left into the property?
It's subject to NJDOT's review and approval, probably not. So then the question becomes, well, then how do you come into this site? And you'll probably go up to one of the neighboring properties and turn around. But we have to provide a full application to DOT where that'll be reviewed at that level because they have to issue us an access permit for the new driveway.
Okay, because from what I see there, it looks like when you come out of the property, that's 5 lanes.
That's right. It's
Yeah.
2 lanes northbound and then
3 lanes
the
south.
left turn lane plus the through moving lanes, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So, like I said, we tried to get out to Stewart, but that didn't happen. So we'll probably end up with right in, right out through DOT.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? No?
Mr. Chairman, seeing no one else coming forward, I would move this public hearing be closed.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, if I could ask a follow-up to the question that the gentleman just asked. So if you're anticipating that the DOT may impose no left in or out, how do you think they're going to enforce that? Just through signage?
Well, signage, and then the fact that we are so close to the intersection, I think that the patients and/or employees, doctors, they'll find the way to get here that, I mean, I hate to say that they'll go through the neighborhood and come out to, is it Claremont's the next one up to the north and come down? You know, I know that.
Well, let me just cut you off, because that wasn't the question is.
Sure.
If they're going to say, if DOT's going to say you can't make lefts in, can't make lefts out, do you anticipate that DOT is going to think that that can be enforced only through signage? Or do you think they're going to impose some curbing to force people?
I think in this case, because it's a minor application to DOT, it's a low volume, and we have made this effort to get other access on both north and south, and because of our limited frontage, that the appropriate design and approval would be signage only for this particular location and this use.
Okay, the reason I ask that is, just if people are leaving the site, and this kind of follows up with the question I asked before. If you're leaving the site, you're stopped, you see a no left turn sign, it's right in front of you. It's right there. So I think, signage has the potential to be enforced and followed for people exiting the site. People entering the site, they have to look across three lanes of traffic with stopped cars to see a sign.
Well, there's supposed to be a sign on what would be the northbound side where they're right. That's
You never see that for individual site.
I don't know, and I can't speak for the applicant. I know that not the entire building is going to be one user, but certainly they can advise their patients of the appropriate route or that there is a no left turn. They're specialists, so it's not like a doctor you're going to necessarily all the time. And again, I can't speak for all of the users that are ultimately in that building, but that is something that is commonplace, especially now that people have websites for guiding people to and from the site. So unfortunately, we have a narrow strip of land on a busy 5-lane section of highway. So yes, it's going to be difficult, but I think between the fact that it's difficult to make that left in most of the time, and we would be providing signage, and the patients can be guided somewhat by the website, I would think. I'm not sure what else we can do here. And even if the driveway is channelized with an island, someone coming here for the first time driving northbound, then that wouldn't see that either necessarily. So it may be a matter of helping the people come here through directions that get them here for a right turn in only.
If the DOT was to impose the channelized, how far back would the building go?
I don't know. I haven't laid that out. I would have to work with Mr. Ford a little bit. But I would think that we might, and again, there's a lot of different things at play, but I would think at least 2 or 4 spaces might have to be eliminated.
And if that was to occur, what's your opinion on the parking variance? Because then the parking variance would go up.
Right. I think we're at 50.
You'd be 51.
55, we would be at 51. I think I said 48. That might have been in your report too, with our 4.6 max ratio recorded. So I think we'd still be in a comfortable, with a comfortable parking supply. And I would agree with some of the conversation earlier that the board had about labs, and I think I myself had said that there's other specific medical uses that seem to have higher demands, particularly pediatrician's office is what we've seen. So as long as there were no labs or high generators, I think you'd be very comfortable, particularly considering that the first floor is going to be used by this specialist with 1 doctor at a time and limited staff and a relatively low patient
I
load.
understand that, but I guess what the board may want to think about in your deliberations is that's the tenant now. This building's going to be here for 50 years, if not more. It's going to be an office building for 50 years. So hopefully this tenant is here for a very long time, but at some point, hopefully their practice grows, they move on, and there's some other medical, some other office use. I have to think about the building as a whole for medical and office use, and what, if you want to impose some
Well,
restrictions.
they've already agreed to restrict it not to
Yep.
that. I mean, I don't know, we can do more than that.
You know, I think we had this discussion on Veronica, where, you know, it's the goal to have a building that is leased, and if there's inadequate parking, a tenant is not going to come into the building because they're not going to be happy there. And we went through that same discussion.
But my concern is not the parking, it's the turns. That's really my.
But it still goes
That is
to.
low volume, well,
Right.
that's,
But,
this
but,
tenant,
but let's just follow your logic, Mark. If we have the first floor occupied by this tenant, maybe a pediatrician is appropriate if they're renting 1,000 or 1,500 square feet upstairs, because we have a low volume user downstairs. If you have multiple high volume users, they're not going to rent there because there's not enough parking. So, I mean, there is a balance. My guess is if the first floor was all pediatrician, you're probably not going to get a tenant upstairs because there would be inadequate parking, and those spaces will probably sit empty. And that was the discussion we had on Veronica Avenue. The property owner's obligation is to rent the property to compatible tenants so the parking isn't overburdened, and it's sort of self-policing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy that we can restrict it to no lab use, and I don't know that we can do too much more than that at this juncture. But I agree with Peter in some respects that, you know, it is self-policing in that regard to some extent. But the lab thing is definitely a good thing not to have. Yes, and Bob.
I think this management group's going to have to be particularly aware of the tenants and getting complementary tenants here, because, you know, there is no option for expansion.
Yeah.
I mean, they're investing in this building and need to see it succeed. I know you don't like to necessarily grant approvals based on that, but there's no other option. They have to make it work as far as the parking and the entrance and exits in this case.
Bob Mettler?
Okay, I guess I was just looking at the plan and a little concerned, should the building have to be moved back? Because it seems to me that would then, well, if the building is moved back, then where the dumpster is going to have to be would have to be moved back, I believe.
Mr. Mettler, if we get to that stage where we have to relocate the building, we'd have to amend our application and come back and look at everything. So what we're asking you to approve is what's there. If DOT makes us change something that dramatically, that we have to lose parking spaces, we may have to make the building smaller. I mean, there are numerous options that we may have.
Okay.
But, you know, what we're hoping is that DOT will approve this and that you approve this, and if something changes, then you're going to see us back here again.
Thank you.
So with that, I think you've given the testimony for the variances and for the frontage already, and so I entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve this application with the stipulations that the board has already made. That's it.
I will second it.
Councilman Chase?
Yes, I think you've done all you can. I don't think the parking will be a problem. In fact, I was even tempted to suggest banking 8 or 10 spaces at the back, but I don't know whether the rest of the board would go along with that. But the turns are a problem, but that's a problem for any use of this property.
Mr. Hack?
Yes.
Ms. Steinhauer?
Yes.
Ms. MacGyver?
Yes.
Mr. Mettler?
Yes.
Mr. Onyaka?
Yes, with this.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Chairman Orsini?
Yes.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your patience this evening.
Before you adjourn, Next month, we are going to have 2 meetings. We'll have the regular meeting on the 4th, and we are going to have a special meeting on the 11th.
Duly noted, and I also want to make mention very briefly of the email that I got from Mark, because I think it reflects well on the planning board as well as the township professionals that, well, Mark, you want to say anything about that? The award we received for the Housing and Community Development Network for affordable housing?
Well, you basically just said it. The township received an award from with the Housing Community Development Corporation for our affordable housing program. And hopefully it'll be in the conference room. We'll put the plaque up in the large conference.
And that was specifically for our work with RPM, correct?
Specifically, but it was, but it's,
Largely with RPM.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this board spent a lot of time on those applications, which weren't all that easy, and so I think it reflects well on all the planning professionals, so just thought I'd mention that. With that, a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.